It's Wednesday, August 9th, 2023. A lot to talk about today. You know, I was talking to somebody earlier today, and it really is kind of amazing how some people see things different than maybe you and I see it. And if you maybe are in a circle of people that, you know, maybe they make $150,000, $250,000, $1 million per year, they see things completely different. Because let's say you're a single individual and you're making $150,000 a year. And, you know, if you have to pay $5, $6 for a gallon of gas, it doesn't impact you like the person who might be making $40,000 or $50,000 a year. And it kind of shocks me a little bit that people just really are oblivious and blinded to what's happening because maybe they make a little bit more money, and so they feel that they're not really affected by inflation. They're not affected by the higher prices because they make a little bit more money. And you know, you break that down, maybe the top 10% can ignore what's going on, while the other 90%, mainly the middle class, which is being absolutely decimated here, the poor being decimated. But it is shocking just talking to people and people who typically make a little bit more money, how they just are blinded to the problems here. And see, they feel that they're protected because they make more money. But if this country continues to have to deal with interest rates rising, inflation rising, when you look at savings rates decreasing, people can't save money, mortgage rates increasing, the price of automobiles increasing, the price of everyday life increasing, people, how in the world does everything continue to exist? How do the restaurants stay open if poor people and middle class can't afford to go to those places? Who's going to buy those Fords on the car lot, or those Chevys, or the GMCs, or the Kias, or the Toyotas, if that middle class and poor people don't have money to spend? You know, people really believe that, I guess, none of this is going to impact them because they make more money and it's not affecting them. But it's going to affect every one of us, because the standard of living for most people is really being attacked right now. And for the people in that top 10% to think that you're not going to suffer some consequences here when the rest of the nation is impacted by this, I think you're sadly mistaken. No matter how much money you make right now, you can be affected just by crime that is running rampant in this country. If you're making good money, and say you own 5 car washes, and you know you're making $1 million a year and you own 5 car washes, when the average guy who makes $40,000, $50,000 goes, I just can't afford to wash my car once a week, now it's once every 2 weeks or once a month. That person who is making $1 million a year at some point is going to be making a lot less money, may have to close a car wash. The same thing if you own 5 or 10 restaurants and you're making money and you're not impacted by a gallon of gas. You're not impacted by the price of an iPhone going up or what have you. But what happens when the average person, the middle class person, the working class cannot afford to go to your restaurants, and you have to close half your restaurants down? Now all of a sudden you're feeling the impact. And a lot of people have really been blinded here. And I don't know if I'm really explaining this enough, but a lot of people at the very top, that top 10%, especially that 1%, have been very, very blinded here because the top 10% of this country cannot support the entire economy of this country, the United States of America. They can't buy every car. They can't buy every house. They can't eat at every restaurant. They can't shop at every store. That's why the middle class is the backbone of America, why it's so important. And it employs more people than any other class, the middle class, and you know, poor people too. I mean, think about who's shopping at the dollar stores, who's shopping at the Walmarts. Well, unfortunately, a lot more of the middle class are shopping there, but that typically was for people who really were more on the poor side. But middle class is becoming more poor. So, you know, but I just wanted to share that with you, talking to somebody today who's a good person, and I'm not criticizing him whatsoever, but it's a perfect example of somebody who makes pretty good money, who really is ignoring the danger and the future of this country because it's not affecting them yet. But at some point, it is going to affect these people at the very top. It's going to affect the top 10%. But so many people ignore it because it's not affecting their business at the moment. It's not affecting their life at the moment. And so everything is okay. You know, I'm one of those people that I try to just look at it from every angle. And, you know, does a $5 gas affect me? Not really. You know, if the cost of a dinner goes up $5 or $10, does it affect me? No. But am I paying attention to it? Absolutely. Am I aware of it? Absolutely. Is it affecting most people? Absolutely. And at some point, to me, it gets so ridiculous that I just won't support it. I can afford to pay for it, but I just can't support it. It's like, you know, going to a Starbucks and paying $9 for a latte. Can I afford to do it? Absolutely. Would I do it? Absolutely not. A lot of people ask me why I haven't gone, you know, and bought a house yet, why I haven't moved. Wouldn't that be pretty hypocritical when I make videos daily saying this is the worst possible time to buy a house? Why would I go buy a house when I'm telling everybody else it's the worst possible time to buy a house? Can I afford to go buy a house right now? A nice house? Absolutely, 100%. Why would I do that when I know that the value of these homes are absolutely ridiculous? Why I'd be paying way too much and probably be regretting it 12 to 24 months from now because the price of that same home would probably be, you know, 20, 30, maybe 50% less. So to the people out there that always want to be critical of me not moving, well, I would be going against everything I talk about every day. I tell people in my circle, in my family, do not buy a house right now. So why in the world would I go do that? I have nothing to prove to some trolls. I have nothing to prove to anybody. I'm going to move when I feel like moving, when I believe it's the time is right, when God says it's right, and when the price is right. And right now, the price is not right. Many parts of this country, prices are still completely overinflated. So even though I can afford it, there's no way I would do it because to me, it's absolutely ridiculous. So I'm aware of what's happening. And in many sectors of my life, it doesn't really affect me, but in a way it does affect me because there's no way I'm going to pay prices for certain types of food or coffees or a piece of real estate right now, even though I can afford to do it. And for a lot of people out there, they can't afford to do it because they're priced out now. But there are people out there that this has not affected them one bit yet. And for many of those people, at some point, it is going to affect them. Their businesses around, maybe their businesses will shut down. Maybe their favorite restaurant will shut down. Maybe a Walmart in their area will shut down. Many of the retailers have already shut down in our area right here, right now. Many little restaurants and retailers are gone for good. Some have come back. Many have not. But it's a really weird economy right now, and people just have a different perspective depending on who you talk to. The majority of this country knows that we're in trouble because they're feeling the pain. And yet there's that 5 to 10% that just still haven't felt the pain and believe everything is okay because their world has not been turned upside down yet. So very interesting. Let me know your thoughts on that. Let me, if you kind of understand what I'm saying, maybe people, they're making a lot of money and none of this affects them. Maybe you're one of them. But to the individual making $30, $40, $50, $60,000 a year, especially here in California, you're being hit hard. You're feeling the effects. Article today from Fox Business: Home Depot, Lowe's stock downgraded on housing headwinds. They're saying in the article that Home Depot and Lowe's have seen a lag in sales and a lag in government stimulus. So think about that. Without the government, and think about these people in the very top 10%, maybe the top 1%, how much money they got in stimulus, that money that went to the very top of the pyramid, it did not trickle down. And all the money that was made on Wall Street that the average person had no chance of making. They didn't get the handouts that a lot of these multi-billionaires and multi-millionaires got. But think about where we're at right now, that they're saying that home improvement sales are lagging and that there's no government stimulus. So this economy is so sluggish now because there's no free money. There's no $7 trillion injections. You trust me, if If they pumped in a couple $1 trillion tomorrow into the economy, people would not be able to spend it fast enough. They would be in line at Home Depot. They'd be in line at Lowe's. They'd probably be back buying tons of cryptos. They would be buying cars. It would start all over again. But the government stimulus is over, at least for the time being. And without it, people are struggling. And more so, the economy is struggling. And that just shows you that the economy has always been weak. The economy was struggling way before all of this, before the health crisis. It took trillions upon trillions of dollars of artificial injections to ramp it back up, and now it has caused major inflation. So we don't have people sitting at home collecting checks, putting granite countertops in and doing bathroom renovations and kitchen renovations. Those days are over. Again, the economy is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. And without these injections, this economy is dead on arrival. Here's another one. 401k hardship withdrawals on the upswing as inflation squeezes consumers. This on Fox Business. A growing number of Americans are making emergency withdrawals from their 401k retirement plans to cover a financial emergency. So it's one emergency for another emergency. Emergency withdrawal for a financial emergency. We have seen a 36% increase in people withdrawing from their 401ks for an emergency compared to a year ago. Here's another one, this one from CNBC. UPS CEO says drivers will average. This is absolutely ludicrous, ladies and gentlemen. I want people to make money, okay? I'm a capitalist. I want people to thrive. I want people to survive. I want people to prosper. But the CEO of UPS says drivers will average $170 in pay and benefits at the end of the 5-year deal. How much is this going to cost you and I now to purchase something from Amazon, have it shipped through UPS, have a package shipped to UPS? How much are these rates going to go up? And it's wonderful that the drivers are going to make $170,000 a year. That's incredible, but at what price? And I think that this is going to have a huge impact in UPS's revenue, their margin forecasts. Huge impact. I don't know how a company can survive doing this. And this covers 340,000 workers. Part-time workers are going to make around $21 plus at UPS. This is absolutely insane. And I mean, why not just pay them $270? People will be like, well, that's great. That's great. They're going to make $170,000 a year. And it sounds wonderful. But remember who's paying for this? We are. This is going to get passed on to you and I. Why not just give them $270? Why not just give the drivers at UPS $270 per year in pay and benefits? Why not? I mean, instead of charging, $10 for that Amazon package to be shipped, why not have it be $25 to have it shipped? I mean, where does this all end? And what is this? How is this going to impact UPS? It's going to be very, very interesting. Wolfstreet.com, the collapse of the EV SPACs. Another one goes bankrupt. Others on the verge. What is it? Ford's lost $5 billion on their EVs. Right here, EV producer Proterra filed Chapter 11 25 months after having gone public. In 2021, their shares were as high as $31.06. Today, 17 cents. That is a plunging of 99.4% from the height of 31.06. 17 cents, ladies and gentlemen. I believe they're beginning to figure out that people really aren't so attracted to the EV trend. It's not working out. To maintain these vehicles costs more. To insure these vehicles costs more. Mileage for these vehicles. I was watching something the other night. For every mile, it literally cost 10 or 20% more per mile to run an EV versus a gas engine. And so it's just not panning out. And in all honesty, most of these EV vehicles also are not very appealing, just with aesthetics. They're just not attractive vehicles. I think most people, especially if you want a sports car, a muscle car, you love that V8 or that V10, V12 sound, that blower, the turbo. These cars just don't have it, and I just don't see EVs being around in the future. I really, really don't. Is there a place for them? Sure, some people are attracted to them, like them, but I think for the majority of Americans, it's just not going to pan out. And the costs to mine these minerals, to build these batteries, and then dispose of these batteries, it's an environmental mess. Moving on, wolfstreet.com. Are drunken sailors still not in trouble with their credit cards? Isn't this shocking? Credit card balances rose by $45 billion in the second quarter to $1.03 trillion. Year over year, credit card balances rose 16% on higher prices and increased spending, particularly on services such as travel, restaurants, and entertainment. It is shocking to see people spend money like drunken sailors. And it's much easier to use a piece of plastic to do it than pulling out cash and actually, throwing out a $20 bill or a $100 bill. It's much easier to just use a piece of plastic. And they say basically you'll spend about 20% more using a credit card than you do cash. Other consumer loans, such as personal loans and buy now, pay later loans, ticked up by $15 billion in the second quarter to $557 billion. I don't care if you're in the 1%, the 5%, the 10%. I think one thing you should do is be honest with yourself and really look at the data. Oh, unemployment's 3.5%. Those numbers are so manipulated. If we went back to the formula that we used in the 80s for unemployment, we'd probably be, and I'm guessing here, we'd probably be around 20%. Some people might say a little more, some people might say a little less, but roughly we'd probably be at 20%. When you take into account that we lost, 585,000 full-time jobs last month, when you take into account that the jobs that we're seeing available in the market, most of them are in leisure and hospitality, or they're in the medical field as medical assistants. This is not going to sustain an economic first world country like the United States of America. It's just not going to work. We can't have everybody working at coffee houses and hotels and restaurants in order to sustain this world superpower crown that we have. Another thing, when people say that, the economy's doing, somebody told me today, the economy's doing really, really well. And if the economy is doing so well, how come the United States of America cannot pay its debt down? How come now we are approaching $33 trillion in debt, $170 trillion of unfunded liabilities? How come the debt continues to climb? We're raising the debt ceiling time and time again. The debt continues to climb. If we were doing so well, how come we cannot pay the debt off? If an individual is working and making lots of money and they had some debt, well, the first thing they would do is pay it down to get in better financial shape, right? To be stronger economically, you would pay it down. So, your credit score rises, you can raise more capital, you have less pressure. And having less debt, just allows you to sleep better at night. But we're creating more debt. We're continuing to spend more than we make. And what about manufacturing in this country? We've lost millions of manufacturing jobs in the last few decades. They're never coming back, at least not anytime soon. So how in the world can we have a good economy, a strong economy, a booming economy, when 20 million households cannot pay their utility bills? When 43 million people are on food stamps, and when the federal debt is now approaching $33 trillion. And of course, all the unfunded liabilities at $170 trillion. This doesn't make any sense to me that we could have a good economy. It does not make any sense to me. And now we're looking at 7.2% of people are 30 days plus behind on their credit cards. We have 768,000 people in LA County who are late on rent. 721,000 children in LA County who could be facing eviction. We have crisis after crisis after crisis taking place. We're not producing, we're not manufacturing, we're not even tapping into our energy here in the United States of America, and we are becoming more dependent on energy on other countries, more dependent on our pharmaceuticals. 90% of U.S. pharmaceuticals or pharmaceuticals are coming in from other countries, that are coming into the U.S. are coming in from other countries. Major chip manufacturers are not here in America. I mean, the whole system is broke, and right now it looks very, very doomed, and there's nothing we can really do about it other than what we can do for ourselves in preparing, raising as much capital as possible, having skill sets, being in the right mental mindset, knowing how to defend and protect ourselves, putting assets away, putting barterable items away, putting food away, putting water away. That's just to name a few. But I think one of the major things we can do right now is just come to the realization and be honest that we have a broken system. I think we have to be honest, and we have to accept the fact and admit to ourselves that things are broken and that this country's in big trouble, and we have got to take some sort of action as an individual to prepare for the mess that is coming. This is not going to go away. They're going to continue to raise rates. They're going to continue to break this economy apart. People are going to go hungry. They're going to go homeless. They're going to continue to lose pensions. Yellow trucking, 30,000 jobs lost like that. That could be you. That could be me. That could be anybody. It could all be gone tomorrow. Nobody is immune from a job loss right now. And so while the top 1% or the top 10% think everything is okay, I highly, highly have to disagree with them, because the data and the facts completely disagree with that. Really quick, I watched an interview last night on COSTCO, and they had Andy Schenkman on. And Andy's a really smart guy, and I apologize if you hear some snoring. Nugget is down here under a little bed snoring. But Andy, really a brilliant guy, and it was a really, really good interview. And you know, when I every once in a while listen to Dave Ramsey, and you know, Dave Ramsey, you know, says there's going to be no housing crash. Don't worry. Buy a house. You can always refi, even though you have no money in the house and you can't refi. But Dave thinks that gold is a joke. He thinks that the housing market's never going to crash, that you should buy a house right now. He believes that, you know, everything that's happening behind the scenes with the BRICS nations, that, you know, the dollar is the end all be all, that it can never be dethroned. And I couldn't disagree more, because I think somebody like Andy Schenkman is so much smarter than Dave Ramsey. And Dave Ramsey, of course, has a vested interest in real estate because he owns a lot of real estate. So, you know, you talk to somebody involved in real estate, especially a real estate agent, an investor, of course, everything is fine. You should be buying in. That's like talking to somebody about crypto. Of course, you should be buying some crypto. Everybody has an agenda here. But Andy made some really, really good points. And you know, he talked about Saudi Arabia and the importance of Saudi Arabia in the BRICS nations and what's going to happen. You know, they've joined the Belt Road Initiative. They've applied for the BRICS membership. They've applied for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which is the largest military and financial organization in the world. It represents 60% of the Eurasian landmass, 40% of global GDP. Saudi Arabia, as he said, and I totally agree, many of you already know this, is beginning to get away from the US dollar. They also applied for the BRICS New Development Bank, and they've also mentioned in the past that they are open to using other currencies, especially the yuan, for oil purchases. You look at Russia and Saudi Arabia, those are two of the world's biggest oil producers on planet Earth. And you know, Venezuela is going to join this too. And Venezuela has a ton of oil. So think about, you'd have Russia, Saudi Arabia, Venezuela. You'd have three of the largest oil producers. I don't know if Venezuela is producing that much oil right now. They're pretty broke, but they are sitting on a lot of oil. And as all this is happening with the BRICS and the Shanghai and the Belt Road Initiative, you're going to see less demand for the US dollar. And right now, there are a total of about 41 countries, as Andy Schenkman was talking, that are interested, that are either part of the BRICS or going to be part of the BRICS very, very soon. And when you take the countries that are in the BRICS, the Belt Road Initiative, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, that's 85% of the world population. 85%. Take China and India alone. That's over 3 billion people. Literally, almost half the world population is sitting just in China and India. And these countries are all going to be doing business with one another. And America is going to really find out that it's not going to be sitting at the head of the table, unfortunately. And we really owe this all to ourselves, because when you weaponize your currency, when you start wars all over the world, when you build military bases all over the planet, and you tell countries they can't do this, they can't do that, you better do this, or we're going to sanction you, we're going to weaponize the currency, we're not going to accept your dollars, we're not going to give you dollars, we're not going to allow you to buy and sell in dollars. When we weaponize a currency, what in the world do you think is going to happen? This is what's happening now. We have forced this to happen. The whole new system's coming, ladies and gentlemen. I know that there's people out there that's saying it's the end, it's game over, it's done. There's no coming back. It's going to continue. But life in America is going to look a lot different, because life in America is going towards a third world nation. You're going to see the US dollar at some point, probably in our lifetime, at least my lifetime, you're going to see the dollar become a third world currency. Will it collapse overnight? Probably not. Could it collapse down the road somewhere? Absolutely. But it may just lagger on, for a decade or two as just another peso. TheEconomicCollapse.com, is America doomed? I watched a video. It was on, I believe, Twitter. And when watching some of these videos of the smash and grabs and just the violence out there, the assaults and whatnot, you really have to ask yourself, is America doomed? It is turning into such a cesspool. And I love this country. I love it to death, but it is being run into the ground. But is this country doomed? Comment down below. Can this country be saved? I believe it can. I believe it will take a miracle, but that doesn't mean that it's going to happen. It very well could collapse. We could go into being a third world country. But I will say this, and this is just me thinking out loud. You can comment down below and let me know your opinion on this. No matter what happens to America, whether we go third world or whether we have a miracle take place and things are saved, I think we are looking at years of a reckoning in America, years of an economic downturn. We are in so much trouble right now. There is so much debt that cannot be repaid back. There is so much of a breakdown in society. There's so much a division in this country. It will take years to resolve in order to get back on top. And there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. That is a long shot at this point. But getting back to this article, there was a video on Twitter. And there are over 1,000 gangs in Chicago, a place I grew up, a beautiful city, history, sports, restaurants, culture, museums, art galleries, incredible cultures. I mean, you name it. Greek food, Italian food, barbecue, steakhouses, Chinese food, Mexican food, Polish food. I mean, just so much incredible food. The town is a war zone, and it's really a shame. It is so sad to see what is happening. It really is turning into a Detroit. But I was watching this video on Twitter. This gentleman's walking through a very nice area in Chicago, beautiful homes, just walking down the sidewalk. He notices a car pulling up on him, and he turns, and then he starts kind of picking up the pace, and two individuals get out of the car, and he starts to run, and they run up to him. It looks like one of them might have a weapon, and they start beating him. It looks like they took his cell phone and maybe a wallet, and they punched him in the face a few times, and he hit the ground. Luckily, he landed on the grass, because if he would have landed head down on the sidewalk, could have been a different outcome. But He lands on the grass. He is completely out cold, unconscious. They jump in the car, take off. Now, it looks like a woman and a child run out because this looks like it probably happened right in front of his house. It was probably his wife and little son, maybe 4 years old, 5 years old. They run out and they're giving him some type of medical attention, trying to revive him, see if he's okay. But so sad to see somebody's wife and little boy have to run out after he'd been viciously assaulted in front of his house. Imagine, you know, what kind of PTSD his wife and little boy is going to have now, you know, witnessing this crime take place in broad daylight, sunny day, summer day, right in front of your house. Imagine a family member being assaulted and violently beaten down unconscious on the front lawn. And while your little boy is watching this and running to your aid. Some neighbors came out. Hopefully he's going to be okay. But I mean, every day, and it's not just Chicago, it's LA, it's Baltimore, it's Seattle, it's Portland, it's everywhere. It's happening everywhere. And it's happening in suburbs. It's happening in rural areas. It's unbelievable. So, you know, you cannot depend. There was no police there to help him, right? You're on your own, ladies and gentlemen. You've got to really be aware of your surroundings. Situational awareness is one of the best assets you can have right now. People always ask for advice. Here's some advice today to a couple of these individuals that always need advice because they cannot think for themselves. And I make these videos so that people begin to think for themselves. Think outside of the box. Think about what you can do to be a harder target. Think what you can do to be more financially independent. Think about what you can do to not be a slave to the system. Think about what you can do to not be an easy target walking home down a sidewalk in front of your house. Situational awareness, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure that your head's on a swivel, that you know about, you know, cars that are driving up behind you. You know, I know he had a phone in his hand, so I don't know if he was prior to that on his phone, walking, not paying attention, but he did have a phone in his hand, and maybe that's why he was picked as a target, that they were able to pull up behind him, and by the time he realized they were out of the car, he couldn't even dial on that phone for the police. So situational awareness would be a really, really good place to start. It's free. It just means you have to get off your phone and pay attention to your surroundings. But situational awareness could save your life. It could save your family's life. So I would start there. Just shocking, ladies and gentlemen. It's so sad. I hate when like little kids see stuff like this. I couldn't imagine, you know, this happening to a family member and just being defenseless as a little kid. You know, what can I say? Get to the range, get a big dog, get out to jiu-jitsu, work on your boxing, get in a mental mindset. Be ready. I mean, be ready because this stuff is happening every day. And before I go, comment down below. Do you know anybody who has been a victim of crime? Comment down below. Do you know anybody personally that has been a victim of crime during this economic meltdown? Love to know your thoughts on that. And if you know anybody that has, please comment down below. I'm going to leave it there today. God bless every one of you. Please like, share, and subscribe. None of this is possible without you. I want to thank everybody for all the great letters, the people who've sent me books. Some of you have sent me some beautiful coins. Thank you so much. And especially all the prayers and support. God bless every one of you. Thank you so much. Again, I could not do this without you, without your prayers. Have a great day. Continue to use situational awareness. Be out there, be training, be skilled, and be ready, ladies and gentlemen. Do not allow yourself to be a victim. God bless.